you have to cut and paste to Google Chrome
Uh,
on some of the iPads and a few of the phones. But yeah, I can always use the Zoom link. But this
oh,
works.
it's all good. I've got my computer stacked up on 4 boxes in a book.
Yeah, I used to do that all the time. Now I got a little table on top of a table.
Just in case. Which was good because we needed it.
It's perfect. So what's been going on? What's been happening in your end of the world through all this we've been going through? I mean,
Well,
it's no longer questionable if it's actually going on, you know? Right? I mean, I think we all thought we were crazy from time to time.
yeah, it's definitely happening. I've just been tucked away. Like, I feel like I'm just coming out of hibernation now for like, not just winter really, but for
Yeah.
over a year. But winter, I just stayed upstairs. Like, I'm trying to like make peace with this sofa. I think this is the first time I've used this sofa for a show.
Hmm.
So yeah, back in the world.
So you've been in hibernation came up for me. I felt like it was like an energetic fattening.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me. But it feels like it just ended.
1st of March, something felt different on the 1st of March, and I went out in the garden and it was actually quite warm. And the toads, there was 2 toads that had come out of hibernation in the water, and I saw a buzzard, a butterfly, and a bee. 3 bees.
Wow.
And then it went cold again, but it was suddenly like, la, here we are, spring.
I think so. And I think you have it right. I think it's been about a year that it's been really like kicked up a year ago. And it feels like it's just ended.
Yeah. And I certainly went into hibernation. I remember the lead up to Christmas last year. And I thought that was it. It was just kind of that gateway time. But yeah, it's just continued all year, really. Apart from me going to Glastonbury 3 times, other than that, I've really just been in my garden, in my home. I don't even really want to go in town here. You know, I'm getting so much more stuff delivered than I ever used to. Even the supermarket. I don't really want to be in the supermarket or anything.
I know. I think a lot of people feel that way
Mm.
and even find themselves in those circumstances. And of course, quarantines can do that. Quarantines and curfews.
Yeah.
But so you went to Glastonbury 3 times during this period, 3 times in the last year?
Yeah.
What was that like? Really? Is it?
So
I've never really talked to somebody in depth about how powerful or, I've been to Sedona, Shasta. I mean, I've been to places where there's definitely something going on. What's Glastonbury like?
I don't think the crystalline energy is maybe as strong in Glastonbury as Sedona or Shasta, but I've never been to those, so I can't really compare. But to me, Glastonbury, like, it very much feels like home. It very much feels like community and family there. The energy is really, really strong. Obviously, the Tor is like a big hub there, and there are tunnels beneath the Tor as well. And across the road from the Tor is Chalice Well.
There's tunnels?
Yeah.
Really? Do they go to like across the shore? Do they go somewhere?
I don't know. They've been blocked off for years.
Really?
But they are talked about. And there's 2 springs. There's the white spring and the red spring. So the red spring has iron in it. So at the base of the Tor, there's these 2 different springs representing kind of masculine, feminine, both coming out on opposite sides of the road.
Do they make the water red, or is it natural?
No, it's natural. It's because it's got iron in it. So the White Spring is delicious, very, very pure, really amazing tasting water. And there are rooms, there's like I guess it would have been a cave at some point, but they've like, put doors on it, and there's a place that people dip themselves, like actually go into the water, which is freezing. So that's in the White Spring, and the Red Spring is Chalice Well Gardens, and that is just my favorite place.
I'm gonna
And
have
the
to get
garden,
some pictures of this. I'm gonna have to go
yeah,
take a look at it. So there's a red spring
yeah,
naturally formed, and there's
yeah.
a clear water spring, whatever.
Hmm.
And they're in the middle. They're in this. How are they, like, near the tour, or is
Yeah,
Glass?
they're both at the base of the tour. In fact, they're probably kind of on it. Like it looks as though it's on the base, but you've already climbed a bit of a gradient to get there. So technically, it's probably actually part of the tour.
Wow,
Um,
wow, that's crazy.
and Chalicewell Garden, like, when we came out of lockdown last year, I decided to go down there, and I remembered that you could stay at Chalicewell Gardens. It's a peace garden, and the gardeners there, like I was talking to the head gardener, and he's very switched on, and people often leave crystals there as a gift to the land. So when he plants something in the garden, he'll plant crystals north, south, east, and west. Um, or he'll put them in the ground so that children find them and they think they've like found treasure.
Yeah,
So it's a very, very peaceful place. And when you're in there after dark, that's when it really comes alive. So I had quite a few experiences in there where I could see the grid, I could see the matrix, I could see and this has been happening to me, that my night vision in terms of energy is just getting a lot stronger. But in
wow.
those gardens, particularly, like I was having a dance with the fairies in the garden, and I could see what I feel was a fairy kind of just in front of me. And it was a light. I think it was a golden light, but it was kind of like expanding and contracting. And if my head would have thought about it, I'd have thought that it would have stayed the same, but it didn't. It was kind of like pulsing, which actually makes more sense.
Right.
Um, and the trees, there are some ancient oak trees in there. It's just a very, very special place, and it's been very nurtured there. So to me, the Chalicewell Garden is like the heart of the heart.
Wow.
Glastonbury is very heart energy. A lot of people think it's the heart chakra of the UK, or maybe even the planet, but it feels like that. Like it feels so charged there, and the water is just
It's called
incredible.
Chalice, is that it?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you can, spend the night there?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. There's a little house. You have to be like a member of the Chalicewell,
So do
whatever.
people, I mean, I would imagine that people would see, you know, paranormal, ghost, certainly elementals would make sense, and I guess you already experienced that. Does that happen a lot over there?
Yeah, the energies. It's like the veil is really thin there.
Hmm.
But it's interesting because a lot of places at night, that's when the energy
Hmm.
can feel a bit funky at night. Like in the day, it's like glorious, and then as soon as the dark comes, all the little goblins and the gremlins come out, and the funky energy kind of takes over.
Can you see them?
Well, I was
You're
just
s
going to say, you actually don't get that in Chalicewell Garden. Like it was interesting because at night it still felt just as pure
Yeah.
as it does in the day. Um, but that connection just feels much stronger in my garden here, because when I first got here to this house, the garden was kind of just piles of rubble.
Hmm.
So it's now a garden, and I've done a lot of energy work in there as well. But my vision at night, the energy, it's like the energy is stronger. So you're seeing more of the sparkles that kind of move, that you can see around windows and stuff. But it almost looks like the white noise of a television being switched off. It looks like you're seeing the matrix. You're seeing like the spaces between.
Wow.
Um, Whereas across the road at the White Spring, that energy often feels a bit funky in there. Funky as in, not that great. And actually my first night last time when I stayed in a B&B that was actually at the base of the tor. So it was like above the White Spring.
Right.
And so I was sleeping with the tor behind me. And I think this was, I can't remember if that was the night that you did the thing for Franco or whether it was the silent retreat. It was one or other of them.
You were in Glastonbury?
Yeah, there was something that I connected in with, and I was in Glastonbury, but with a tor right behind me. And it was like it was thumping me in the back the whole night, like trying to sleep. It was was so active.
The pulsing again.
Yeah. And I think there you can get a bit of funk there as well. Not all.
Well, I think all those places bring up your shadow.
Yeah.
Like if you start getting off path a little bit, it'll come.
Yeah. I mean, it's always felt Glastonbury to me like the shadow was very, very strong there. And last year was the first year that it felt less.
Wow.
The first time I stayed in Glastonbury, I was quite shocked actually at how it felt at night, especially the main street and the church. That always feels a bit odd at night. But I remember walking down the street and thinking, wow, this place is awful. But that's soon passed. And this year especially, it just feels less shadowy. It feels like the shadow is just less shadowy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, those really big PowerPoints like Glastonbury, I mean, with everything that the powerless powers that be had access to, historically and otherwise, I mean, they know where these places are. And oftentimes, I've been quite a few places where you see both. And in some places like Washington, D.C., where, it's just like, it looks like a matrix. It looks like a computer motherboard. It's just bland and something's inorganic about it, or it feels that way, although everything is the same thing. But now, what about the elementals? Because, I saw something pretty credible not too long ago, and it was the first time I ever heard anyone say or mix the ETs with the elementals. And it was a military dude who'd had a long history, and but he was saying how at these little meetings they'd have, that the elementals would show up and work in cooperation with whoever he was with in the ETs. I thought, wow, that's trippy. I know you have a pretty close connection to the elemental king.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like both galactic and elemental. I guess I started my journey connecting with angels and then the elementals, and the galactics kind of came in a little bit in the beginning, but more so from about 2015. And recently the Sasquatch and the She as well, they've been really coming in strong.
What's the She? What's that?
The She, it's spelled Sidhe. It's a silent I and a silent D. So it's just pronounced she. So I think that's a Gaelic word. I think it's from Ireland. So they are believed to be, so they're in that same realm, like the kind of unseen realm. So you might put them with the elementals, but they're known as being like the first people of the planet before us. So of a higher vibration, and they've kind of, gone into hiding or whatever.
Are they humanoid? Are they humanoid? Yeah. Wow. Yeah, because I've heard that the elders, Sasquatch, were the original one, but this resonates. Sounds feminine too for some reason. I guess because of the name she. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very soft and very tall, and it's interesting because I've been on a I've watched so many hours of documentaries this week about Sasquatch. Suddenly, it's really come in. I watched something with a man called Sunbow. I don't know if you know.
Sunbo, yeah, he was on this show.
Oh,
Sunbo.
was he? I'll have to
Yeah.
check. I'll have to
Yeah,
check that.
I've seen a bunch of those popping up and I wanted to watch one, but I couldn't figure out which one. And I was actually looking for one of the people because we had like a couple and then this guy, Sunbo. There might have been one other one that came on specifically to talk about their connection with Sasquatch.
And so they're speaking of, these are highly evolved beings that are telepathic,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the usual story that they're, in forgiveness with us. But my feeling is that they and the she, and I can't really differentiate between them. Like they both seem to be keepers of the land, like keepers of the earth, and kind of looking after nature. That seems to be their focus. But that they are ready to speak to those who are ready to speak to them, because they've got so much information for us. We can learn so much from them about the earth and, looking after it more effectively.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm a big I feel like they're very close to us.
Yeah.
I had a few experiences, nothing where I saw it. Well, yeah, there might have been a couple of times I saw a flash of this or a flash of that or in a tree, but there was a period for about 2 years where maybe six things happened. Um, but I remember them and they were very clear and they were very visual for me, like in my third eye. And some things happened, and I've talked to a lot of people that have run into that energy. Sandra Walter talks about it when she was living on Shasta in a tent for 6 weeks. And I know other people that have had forest experiences with them, never really being revealed, but communicating telepathically very clearly. Sometimes a visual sign, like a rock would be thrown or something like that. So I believe it's a very real thing. And so have you researched the she? Have you researched the she? That's a tongue twister. Um, I mean, I'm just curious. Like I've never heard of it, and it feels like wow, there's something to that.
Yeah, I bought a book. Again, I was kind of just investigating elementals, and because I want to speak more about elementals and kind of put the record straight about
Yeah,
them a little bit.
yeah,
So I was researching and came across somebody who'd written a book on the sheet. I was going to bring it downstairs and I didn't do. Um, it's only a very, very small book, but it talks about how to communicate with them. And to me, when I feel a connection, they feel very tall. They might be what people say are elves. I'm not sure, because often people say elves are very tall.
okay, okay.
Um, but I see them a bit like Merlin, really, like that kind of,
Yeah,
long beard.
wizardry,
Yeah,
kind of like a wizardy. Yeah,
yeah. But kind of a bit ageless too.
yeah. Wow, that's pretty powerful. Just taking that in, and and that's one thing about like researching or experiences that you have. You realize these dimensions are as close as you and I are, right? Like they're right here, they're right there, and how much of it is believing they are versus other practices that we have, to raise our frequency to be able to get there. I guess I mean,
Yeah.
maybe a lot of it's just in our belief system.
And a lot of it's the heart too. A lot of it is about, obviously they can tell where we're at, how we are with nature, how we are with the birds, how we are with the animals. Do we just throw our litter on the floor? All those kinds of things.
Yeah,
And do we, yeah, are we in the space of our heart, in the space of love, like that? That is more what they're looking for, really. Same with
yeah,
the fairies.
yeah. True, very true. Like dogs and cats and babies. like uh, yeah, you're right. I guess it's no different than us. I mean, we want to walk around people not intrude in our energy field, respect ourselves, respect others, honor, love, reverence.
Yeah.
And you hear a lot of people talking about different energies that they connect with. And they're a lot of times when they tell their stories, and I think it's kind of important, they talk about how they enter the container with that energy. Or may I walk in your forest? Or may I speak with you, tree? Or, ET, star family, whatever. And I don't know. I mean, I don't always do that. I guess I do in my own way, but I think it's something to remember. Like, can the bigger your heart is, I guess, however you would put it, the more you see. Period.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, the permission is an interesting one, and I forget sometimes as well. Um, even down to mowing the lawn and letting the lawn
Mm.
know that you're going to mow it, and sending a message out to. I did this last year because there's a pond in the garden. So I sent a message out to the frogs and the toads to say that I was going to mow the lawn. And then suddenly, as soon as I sent the message out, this little frog was like
Trying to
going away.
get out of harm's way. No, it works. I remember clearing out a basement at a friend's place, and it hadn't been cleared in 15 years. I mean, it was full and it was big. And I had to develop a relationship with the rats and the flies over a period of, this. I mean, I just went to work, and it was a constant thing, and it went away. I didn't kill
Mm,
anything. I removed some dead bodies, but that wasn't because of me. I don't know what happened. They probably overate. But yeah, I think that's part of it. It's like everything is sentient,
yeah.
and
I
to
even thank my milk frother when I'm making my coffee in the morning in my little coffee machine. I'm like,
yeah,
thank you. Thank
yeah,
my car.
yeah. The tour. So, like, what's the wildest thing that's happened when you've been there, or the wildest thing you've heard of someone that happened there?
Mm.
Glastonbury.
I had an interesting experience. I think I mentioned this in our session the other day. So I hadn't intended to go up the tour that day. I just intended going to fill my water up, and then suddenly I found myself turning off and going up to the tour. Um, and so you'll have seen the actual tour itself, like the little tower that's at the top. And I was
How
just
do you
sitting.
know? I'm just curious. Do you know how old that tower is?
It's not that old. Like
Okay.
it's not ancient. It's more modern,
Okay.
and probably shouldn't really be there.
Hmm.
It wasn't. I think there were standing stones up there originally.
Okay.
So I was sitting in there, and it was very quiet up there, and just went into a meditation space, and then suddenly, I just felt myself drop. Not even at the bottom of the tour, like I'll tell you another one as well. Even deeper than that, and instantly, I was aware of Osiris there, which kind of surprised me because I wasn't in Egypt.
He's not from the Avalon family.
Yeah,
What are you doing here, dude?
yeah, yeah. I thought you'd be Merlin. Um, and he handed me a scroll, and I've started drawing. It's not like I opened it and could see what was on it, but I know that I have that information inside me. So at some point, I feel that that's something for me to offer out. Um, but the other thing I was going to share, so there was a lot of rain when I was there in October. And from the top of the tour, some of the fields, they looked like they had, little lakes or giant puddles in there.
Mhm.
And I meant to bring this down as well. There's a being that I connected with at Chalice Well years ago when I was still living in Australia, but I'd visited Glastonbury. And my body had a lot of pain, and this being came out of the well, and she was entirely made out of water. Like her hair was water, her clothes was water, everything was water, and her hair was like waves like that. And she said, would you like me to blow, like my shoulders, for example? She said, would you like me to blow into your shoulders? And when she blew into my shoulders, it was like water, like her breath was even water. So I got this beautiful cleanse. And each time I go there, something different happens. The time before last, she came out, and then the masculine aspect came out as well. And I was in the middle of recording myself doing a light language activation because it was one of the days that I was staying there, so it was closed to the public. But it's like they both came out and merged with me. And then last time, so I'm on the tour and I'm looking down at this giant puddle, and this water being came out of the puddle. And it's like she was, wrong way, it's like she was kind of like this with her arms and kind of stretched from where she was in the field up to me with her arms stretched out for me to kind of like grab her arms and go back down with her. So I did, and we investigated the tunnels a bit. Wow. Which I can't remember. And then I went back to the Chalice Well because I was staying at Chalice Well again. And it happened again once I sat outside the well. And that's the image that you often see. That's like, oh, I can never do it when it's not mirrored. The Vesica Pisces. That's
oh yeah, I see it.
You'll have seen that probably. That's at Chalice Well. It's at the lid. Wow. So she came out again and invited me to go in, and I assumed we were going back into the tunnels. But she took me to an octahedron that was made of water.
When was this?
October.
Wow.
So she took me to this octahedron, as I say, that was made of water, and invited me to go into it. First of all, I was kind of like, oh my God, it's an octahedron and it's made of water. Like, how can that be? You know, how can it be that shape? But I went into it and I was still kind of like, you know, philosophizing about it a little bit. And it started spinning, and I realized that there was maybe 3 of them and they were all spinning. And I was trying to get my head around how they were spinning. So I was still inside it, but I was also outside it, trying to look at it, trying to like, you know, make sense of it. And when I looked closely, what was inside was a baby. And it was like, because I'd merged with those 2 aspects and merged myself, it was like that baby was me, but it was also the golden child. And I'd messaged Morgan with that because when it happened, I got the message to tell her about it, but I never got the go ahead as to when to tell her until the day before our session. So it's interesting how much water came up in our session, because I think were you the first to mention water, or was I
in the session? In the session?
Yeah, one of us
mentioned
water.
I can't remember the session. Right. I probably will in a second, but I remember the session, but I don't remember.
And I don't think I said Glastonbury, because Glastonbury came up to me straight away.
Okay.
But I think it was Morgan maybe that mentioned Glastonbury first, or you. It wasn't me anyway. But it was interesting about the, you know, more than one octahedron too, and about things spinning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know that had come up with her for a long time, but I remember it picked up, and I think it was around October. Denise did. She said you brought it up. Okay.
What did I?
Yeah. So, like, I'm just curious because everybody experiences things differently. So, like, when you're having these experiences at this place, because there's a relationship here. It happens to me with Anubis in Sedona. I've talked about it. I don't know if I can really explain it, how it goes down. But I guess my question is like, how much of it's with these 2 eyes and how much of it is with the third eye, or both? or not, because it's definitely, for me, it's definitely a different language. You got to really, follow the crumbs. How does it go for you?
I think it's these eyes, and it's a combination. It's
Okay.
like they kind of work together.
Yeah.
I'm seeing more with these eyes now, but a lot of it is here. Like all that I described then really was with my third eye.
Right.
I'll just answer Bruce's comment of takes the shape of its container. The water was the container though as well. That was the thing. It wasn't an octahedron that the water was in. The
Yeah.
water was the octahedron.
Wow. That's pretty cool. And so there was a baby inside.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
But I knew that baby was me too. It was it was a bit wild.
Do you, because like you merged the, whatever, well, what is her name? Does she have a name? The
The
water
water
guy?
being. I don't know if she is the lady of the lake. I don't know if that's a different
But
being.
you merged with her and then her counterpart, the masculine. So, and there's been a lot of talk about equilibrium or higher alignment with masculine and feminine. Do you feel like that's been a big part of your journey the last few months?
It's been a big part of my journey. Let me just try and remember the last few months.
No kidding, right?
There's been a lot of throat stuff. That almost feels like a point of merge, because it's that place between the head and the heart as well. That feels like it's a place of merging. So there was a lot of throat stuff to start with on my right side, if you call that my masculine side, and then it kind of switched to being my left. So I definitely felt there was some merging going on there. There was also, I think I hadn't registered this until you asked, but there was a lot of solar plexus heart merging going on too, and that almost feels the same.
Wow.
Suzanne and I did, we did a big weave together. So while I was in Glastonbury, and the energy is so strong there, and I feel really charged, energized while I'm there, and I feel really well, like really well. I don't need to sleep. I'm much more creative. There's a lot more going on for me while I'm there, and much lacted. So I have been on an asthma preventer for years, for like 30 years. And it's one that you have to rinse your mouth out after you use it so you don't get any infections, because it's got a low steroid in it. Okay. And I was staying in this like cabin in someone's garden, Airbnb, and I realised I'd not had my inhaler, and I just couldn't be bothered getting up and having it and having to rinse my mouth out because I was in bed already and I was comfy. And I thought, I'm just out of curiosity, I'm just going to see if I'm all right without it. Because normally if I would forget it, I would get wheezy in the night. Like I'd wake up about 3 or 4 in the morning and be really wheezy. So just out of curiosity, I didn't take it and I was fine. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. So I decided to stop it. And I'd stopped it last January and ended up going back on it because I just got really, really wheezy. And what I realized was that what I feel was happening with me was that this preventer inhaler was suppressing a lot of emotion. So when I stopped it, all that emotion that was in there and that was present and was being suppressed by the inhaler was all coming up.
Wow.
And I was so wheezy when I got back. But I always felt when I would do energy work on my own body to treat that, instead of going to my lungs, I would go to that spot there. So just below the diaphragm. And I felt that there was like a nerve plexus there. And that was it was stuff that was in that nerve plexus was then constricting the lungs. And I looked it up, and that's true. There is like the celiac plexus is there. It's a massive nerve bundle.
So you healed yourself.
Yeah. And Suzanne and I did a big weave to do with that, because I just couldn't get past this.
So you basically came together with Suzanne with the intention of going in and investigating whatever you were kind of
Mhm.
onto already, right? But you couldn't clear it. Wow. So
Yeah,
was it just you and Suzanne doing the weaving, or was there other
yeah,
people? Just
yeah.
you
That
two?
one was, and
Yeah,
and
that's
we
very cool.
we recorded it. We didn't do it live because we didn't want anything,
Yeah, yeah,
kind of getting in the
yeah.
way. But we felt that there was actually a lot of stuff for other people in there as well. So we released that a few months ago, and I cried for weeks after that. Like, it was a really, really deep purge after that. And one thing that I hadn't cleared in my body was the space around the lungs in the pleural cavity. That had never occurred to me. And Suzanne mentioned it in the weave, and I was like, oh, because if that's full of stuff, then that's compressing the lungs too.
Yeah. Just like
Um,
the spinal fluid for the spine.
yeah, yeah. So we did another one recently as well, which I haven't released yet. That's still on my computer waiting to be edited. But this next one is between the lungs and the throat.
Mm.
But another big one. So we kind of talk about stuff and unravel things through talking about it, but
Yeah.
also brought in a lot of light
Cool.
language too.
No, I think there's a lot of that going on where there's collaboration
Mm.
occurring, with intention, or, to emit a frequency if it's a silent kind of gathering, but yeah, I think, and then you have, small groups meeting in person or on Zoom, particularly feminine. Like there's something, to that. And even what you talked about with filming the weaving with Suzanne about that area that you focused on and cleared. Um, yeah, I think those things are, number one, when they happen, they emit energy, transformational energy. So in the etheric. But if it's something that's witnessed, like on a video or a live or even in a post, or, somebody's relaying the story, yeah, it's healing, what we call healing. And it definitely has code for all of us, which is, and then you mentioned the throat chakra, the voice, and that's just coming up more and more and more. And if I look back 3 or 4 years, or even 5 or 6 years, it's always been on this kind of ascending thing, not just for me, but for everybody.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what the voices of the Mother Goddess are, in all of us, is that part of us that hasn't been able to speak. And obviously women first, because the first thing I would think is somebody said, you got a throat chakra problem. And I'd be like, no, I don't. I love to talk. But you go back, like with all of us, you go back 4, 5, 6 years, you go back 2 years, you go back 1 year. I think, I mean, for myself and people that I get to do this with or be exposed to on a consistent basis, you can see our growth. And a lot of it can be detected in the voice, in my opinion, because I feel like everything else, I've been splintered and my voice splintered with it. It almost like hurts to talk if you're full of shit, basically. You know what I mean? It's like doing something that doesn't go with your soul, right? Like, when we don't follow the guidance, or we follow the guidance and we, step in faith with it.
It's like your voice gets more resonance. It's like the voice becomes fuller, like it's stronger, but there's it's as if extra frequencies get added to it. And I noticed that in my singing as well. Like, the singing voice changes. You can get lower notes than you used to. You can get higher notes than you used to. But aside from that, and it's interesting when you tone into your own body, that you can feel that there's more space for the tone to resonate in,
Yes.
because there's less of the gunk in there. And I've been like humming into my body and finding the notes that resonate that particular area. So you'll try a few notes and then you just hit one, and that area of your body that you're trying to hit is just really vibrating. It's like there's a sweet spot in a room. So And this happens at Chalice Well as well at the White Spring. You sing, even when it's closed and you sing through the gate,
Mm-hmm.
suddenly it starts singing back to you. Suddenly
And
you
it
feel,
sounds like a place you'd go, like in a fairy tale,
yeah,
right? Like, I mean, yeah. I think there a lot can be said for sound, which carries vibration and tonality and all that as being like the original pillars of creation. Like that's how
absolutely.
everything starts. So, and then to your point about the voice, and somebody else made a comment about it, or a couple of people. Um, yeah, I've kind of done the same thing as I started getting back into like writing and listening to music and playing with that. And what I discovered, and I do this just privately, for the most part, um, I discovered this whole thing going on with the throat, and it's not just about like saying someone trying to carry a melody or whatever, rhythm, whatever tempos, um, but more of like, wow, what you just said a minute ago, like there's more space in there. There's something else going on, and the only way, and I'm still early in the game with it, but I know the other thing about it, it's carrying code that applies to the frequency, and I guess to like the flow, the tempo, the balance of the experience, and and I find that it's actually speaking to me, and it carries a lot of code, and it's in my opinion, because there's so many frequencies involved, including my thoughts and including what I'm feeling. There's just so much there, etherical and physical, and I think there's something to it. So I'm just, exploring it on an individual basis. So it's cool to hear somebody say what you're saying, because I can relate to some of that. And I also see it in people. And for myself, I go, what is it? Bring it down to like 5 words or something. And it's like the voices, and you said it earlier, the voice is softer, but it sounds bigger. But it's not like a big, like a bully big. It's like you go into a little amphitheater to see an orchestra. It's like that sound they have in there. It's like the sound of the room, and it has like volume and almost like solidness to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm fascinated by sound. And I've used sound in my healing work for since I started, like even just clapping your hands. You
Hmm.
clear energy when you clap. At the end of a performance, when you clap, you're applauding the person, but you're also clearing the energy, because when a performer's taking the energy up there, there's nowhere left to go. So you clap, you clear the energy, and then the next person has somewhere to, like, some space for it to go into.
Makes sense to me. I'm gonna
Mm.
start doing that all day long. Be out in public, just clap,
But
bring yourself
it's
back. It makes
amazing.
it makes a little sense. It's like a slap in the face. Like boom, get back to reality. Get back down here.
But when
Yeah,
we hum, the sound is all going into our bodies. Like,
mhm,
humming is amazing for us. I
yeah,
think we're only just at the start of recognizing the potential of our own voice. And like you say, that it holds
yeah.
the codes of creation, whether it's light
There's
language.
something going on with it. Yeah, I mean, to
Mm,
me, there's some kind of code or intel that's coming in with it, and this is through the observation, the stuff I do myself, and the discussion like this. But there's like it carries more code than anything else I've experienced, and it's wide open potential wise. So, like, if I'm gonna do something with music and words late at night, uh, I'm not really trying to create anything. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to follow that yellow brick road, because there's something going on with that
yeah.
in kind of a micro kind of way, right? It-
Humming also releases nitric oxide in the body, not nitrous oxide, not laughing gas, nitric oxide.
what releases it?
Humming.
Oh, humming. Okay.
Yeah, so nitric acid relaxes the muscles, it relaxes the fascia. Um, And my journey recently, since I've said the word fascia, I can't just leave it there. So part of my healing journey has been delving deep into fascia. So fascia is the connective tissue of the body. So when I learnt about the body when I was a nurse, we didn't know about the fascia. Like nobody knew about the fascia really.
Really?
Yeah, because it was most of the research was done on dead bodies, and the fascia of a dead body is very different to the
How
fascia of a
how long
living
were you
body.
a nurse?
20 years.
Wow, and they never talked about it? Wow, that's crazy.
Well, they didn't know about it. Like when you did a dissection, the fascia is that white layer around the organ that they like got rid of to see what they were really wanting to look at, which was the
Okay,
organ.
okay.
But actually, the fascia it's one system. It's one whole system. So
It's
it's
almost like a physical cosmic web. I get that. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
wow, I didn't know that. So that would have blood in it for sure. It
It
would have,
surrounds all the blood vessels.
oh, so here we go again with the same type of thing as the spinal fluid to the spine and what you were talking about with the lungs. So it is important. I guess it's all important.
It's like the mycelium network.
Mm,
And what happens in the body when you're stressed, when you're in fight flight, is your fascia contracts. And it does that as a protective mechanism. But when you're stressed or in fight flight for too long, then it
hmm.
stays contracted. And this has been a massive, massive key for me. So for a lot of people with fibromyalgia, with chronic pain, chronic fatigue syndrome,
Arthritis,
exactly.
you
I don't
know.
think it's interesting you bring that up because I don't think arthritis is what they think it is at
No, I
all.
mean, listening to you right now, I just got that epiphany.
Yeah,
I was like, wait a minute. If this is like it's almost like a tissue muscular system, I get it. I can see it. It's like a physical cosmic web, like when they
yeah,
show the web when you go through the cosmos and how everything's got that web. But if that were constricting, then it's kind of like your tendons. If your tendons constrict, you can't move. So I could see where that would just have all kinds of what we call medical issues. Like I had an arthritic condition of the eye that was really bad a couple of times. Arthritis itself, and I've noticed since probably going back 10 years because it was like in my face, fibromyalgia, and another thing, Lyme's disease.
yeah.
And a couple of other things that are very prevalent with people in these communities. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a diagnosis of fibromyalgia 20 years ago, and I'm always careful with my words. I'll say I had a diagnosis of rather than I am. I never
Yeah.
used to say I am asthmatic, or I would say I have, but I don't even say that anymore because you're claiming it as yours, and that's not what we want to do.
Yeah.
Um, and so the tendons are actually fascia. They're a different form of fascia.
Like a bigger,
So
like
the
almost like a hub of
yeah,
fascia. Is that how you say
yeah,
it? Fascia.
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 Yeah, fascia.
No, I don't know. I don't know how to say it. I'm just asking. Yeah.
That's how
Fascia.
I say it anyway. Some people
Um,
would say
yeah.
fascia, but I say fascia.
Well, I used to paint, work with houses and you have a fascia. It's a fascia board. But I think the S and the C are because I've seen that term before, fascia. Um, God, yeah, I mean, see, to me, things are moving so fast. And as we get up every day and go, okay, what are we doing? The one thing is keeping us all here. Obviously, it's our soul, our guidance. But there's also this movement that people call ascension or awakening or whatever you want to call it. Um, and so we're learning so much so fast, and there seems to be like a real quick turnaround between awareness and kind of like embodiment almost.
Mm.
Um, but like information coming out in a conversation and two people go to the same place, like, no, this is how arthritis starts basically. I mean, you break it down to the fascia, and then that goes out there. in however ways it does, you know, obviously listening to it or watching it or seeing a replay or somebody makes a post about it or somebody has an epiphany about it or a lucid dream wakes up the next morning, you know, it's all connected. It's the fascia, right? It's the fascia. But I mean,
And
this stuff that we're learning, we seem to be applying on a very quick turnaround now. And that's pretty exciting.
so I've been stretching my fascia and I've been intending that it goes to all the peripheries where it's been contracted from.
Mm.
And I feel, it's really hard to describe it, but I feel less restricted inside my body. It feels like I'm starting to spread out inside. And the fascia carries light. It carries probably energy. I mean, light is energy. It's Joe put there, it's a fiber optic network.
Okay. Yeah, I can picture that.
Yeah,
So, or do you actually like run your like fingers or whatever over your body as you're doing it? Or are you doing this? Yeah.
there's different ways that you can do it. So the fascia stretching is something I learned from a lady called Erin Teets, and it's
Hmm.
quite a new way of moving the body. So say, for example, a bit like a cat in the morning. So do you know child's pose in yoga? Are you familiar with that one? Don't choke on your coffee.
I don't know
Right,
nothing
we'll
about
we'll go
yoga. I
down.
know the names of the different yogas.
What can I say instead? So what you basically do, okay, so with the bicep,
Hmm.
so you activate your bicep, and then this hand is wanting to go backwards. So you've activated the muscle and you're going to stretch the fascia here. So this hand wants to go that way, this hand's going to push it that way.
Right.
So when you go like that, you're actually stretching the fascia in your arm because of the way that you do it. So you're stretching that fascia there because you've activated the muscle, it's still active, and you're pushing that down. So inevitably that stretches that.
Okay.
If you have a point of pain in your arm, for example, so I've had quite a bit of pain in my elbows. So you find the point of pain
Yeah.
and then you just move and you like that's so clicky and creaky. And you just keep moving like figure of eights, I find to be amazing. And you
I mean, essentially, you're communicating with it
and
and
I'm also
working with it.
visualizing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because you know, anyone that's had back problems or even like what do you call it, a crick in the neck, you know, like a
Yeah.
pinched nerve, it's hard to find the root. Like we're often dealing with the symptom and not the root cause, and I think that's you know kind of you know what's going on here. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense, and it makes sense that we've always had the light in us. I mean, I know we're carbon based going to crystalline, but those crystals have already been in there. It's like a piece of coal, right? And it's turned into diamond. But
Mm.
there's ways to break that up, like through reprogramming, you know, your
And even
DNA, working on your own healing,
yeah,
but also because of what speaks to me about not just working with the fascia, but also the whole thing we were talking about with the voice. Even though those aren't traditional ways of what we might consider movement, I feel movement when I feel into those two kind of things. I'm like, wow, there's movement there, and I think the movement thing is really, really important. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, I think I was interrupting you. Yeah, the movement's really important with fascia. It's what builds new fascia is movement. So when we're
Yeah,
very inactive, then our fascia isn't growing. It's not
yeah,
creating new pathways.
yeah.
And it's this beautiful moving geometry. Like it's not one structure, it's constantly moving. There's a beautiful video on YouTube called View of Living Fascia, and it shows how it like stretches, it separates. It can separate from one part that it's, say you've got fascia like this bit can go off there, and turn up down here, like it's moving, it's living, it's
That's
so
wild.
beautiful.
That's wild.
And it's also, now this is interesting too, it's fluid and it's solid. It's both. It's got collagen in it, which is a triple helix, which gives it
It's
strength.
fluid and it's solid. Yeah. And I'm sure it's light.
Yeah.
You know, it's the
Yeah,
web. It's the
absolutely.
web replication of the web.
And it almost feels, since I've been doing the work on my fascia, like there's more structure in my body for higher Denise to come in and embody. Like
Wow.
I feel more embodied since my fascia is more healthy.
Have you ever worked with a kinesiologist?
Yeah, I learned kinesiology. It's one of the things I did when I was in Australia.
Yeah. Oh, you did it? Or
Yeah, I didn't do
you
all
had
the
it?
hours of practice, but I learned it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, really interesting. And so that in kinesiology, every muscle represents an organ. So it's just another way. And
Wow.
I wonder if there's a fascia link between the organ and that particular muscle. And I'm so intrigued as to the heart's role in the fascia.
Where the say that
Because
again?
I'm really intrigued as to what
Oh,
the heart's role is going to be in the fascia.
oh,
Like the
okay.
book that I'm reading at the moment talks about the brain, but it doesn't talk so much about the heart. But I feel it's the heart that is the controller,
Yeah.
sending messages to the brain. It's actually the largest sensory organ of the body. It's more sensitive than your eyes or your ears.
The heart?
The fascia.
The
And there's,
fascia. Okay.
yeah,
Well,
200.
it's so hard to get your arms around it because it's not really like a traditional like skin.
Yeah,
Skin is an organ,
yeah,
but I don't look at it as an organ, but it's
yeah.
actually an organ, right? So this is the same kind of thing, right? But if you think about it too, like I mean, it's actually effing amazing if you look at even like the electrical system of the human, the nervous system.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like when you pull a nervous system, the nerve system out of a skeleton and you have it laying there, it looks like it looks like an alien. It looks like, it's crazy. And that works the same way. I wonder if like the fascia gets blocked, then it creates pressure on the nerve and yeah.
There's more nerve endings in the fascia than in the muscle.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. It
Mm.
sounds like that the fascia is, I don't mean to say beneath, but more of a core.
Yeah.
Like if you clear the fascia, then your nervous system is going to be, like relaxed and yeah. Wow.
And if you had no organs, if you had no skin, if you were just fascia, we'd still know that it was you because it's what creates the structure of your body. If you were only fascia,
Are you serious? Wow.
mm,
That's crazy.
your bones are floating in your leg, held. Your bones are floating, they are held by fascia.
Wow. That's wild.
I know, this has been absolutely blowing my mind. There's even new cells called telecytes that are in the fascia, and they're communication cells. So it takes hormones from one part of the body to the other. It transfers messages. It's so key to so much, and I think it's going to change everything that we know about the body.
Medicine especially. Like that's, seriously, because if that's the case, if it's carrying those messages,
Mm.
then it's directly tied into the lymphatic system
Yes,
where
it is.
people have, where people will have problems and it's quite common and sometimes, obviously fatal. But I mean, like this is a whole different game. And I was saying this, I guess it's coming up now. This self-healing, what we're discovering about how we do it, sharing it. Because I was talking to somebody else, I think it was yesterday or the day before. It was a lady, and I was telling her like, yeah, I remember reading on Morgan's bio before I even approached her. Like that took like 6 months. And by the way, today's her birthday in America, so
Happy birthday,
Even though she had one yesterday, and I'll show you. But yeah, happy birthday, Morgan Lee. But no, I remember reading her bio, and she was talking about reprogramming your DNA
Mm.
and playing in dimension. And I'm like, what? But the part about physician heal thyself. The part about the reprogramming DNA. And now I'm talking to people and having conversations and hearing stories like yours where you're actually describing, you're taking yourself back to the original blueprint, right? I mean, and it's not just an etherical or spiritual thing. The body's part of this. I mean, who knows? As the veils get thinner, maybe we lose our skin, and then and then eventually you're just looking at fascia with a couple of eyes.
Well, it is. It's the body's light network, and Chinese medicine has known this for a long time.
Yeah,
They've known it. Like, I've had some good chats with Sifu Boggy as well on
Mhm.
fascia. I did a little video about it that I shared yesterday because I just wanted to share. It's so important for so many of us.
Well, it's good to know about it. I mean, once you know about it, then that itself creates, more context for, for you
Yeah,
to
because
do.
I knew how to tap into the fascia, to the connective tissue, but I didn't really, I didn't know the magnitude of it.
Mm.
It really has blown me away.
I would imagine if you look really close at the fascia, you're going to see octahedrons. There's made up
Oh,
of little fascia octahedrons.
that it is geometry, but it's quite random. So they're
Mm.
like
Oh yeah,
quadrahedrons, but because it's changing all the time, like,
off planet hedrons.
yeah,
Well, if you think about anchoring, if we're anchoring and embodying, wow,
so
that fascia's a female. That's cool.
so that's kind of what
What
it.
it is and why it matters. David Lezenduck.
There we go.
Yeah, very cool.
So yeah, it's all
You
geometry.
learn something every day. Learn something every day. We'll be back in what I don't know. Let's see, Denise. Oh, Nicole McAdoo. She's cool. Like Denise, she's cool. Down in I don't know where she's at. I know she's in Australia, but I can't remember the little place she's at. Yeah, this has been very informative. Really has. It makes me look, because we all kind of scan our body or look at our body. You pull your body up, and it won't look the same.
All
It'll
that
have,
walking you did when you healed your back, that was probably because you changed the structure of your fascia.
I don't know what happened. I knew it was happening. I couldn't explain it, but I knew, and I still think about this today. I'm sitting here today, and you mentioned the year that seemed to have started about a year ago and is ending like right now. I haven't done for the first time, and well, the previous years not so much either, but I did stuff, and I could do stuff. I could climb a mountain in Hawaii and blow Morgan's mind, at 50 whatever years old. But this last year I haven't done anything, and so I'm going, why? How is my body holding up? Like, how did I overcome these back issues? But I'm also getting the call, like, get moving. So I guess I'm going to get my walking boots and get
Or
some.
dance.
I got to walk first. I can't. Every now and then, I might try to do a little. I'm here by myself, just messing around, and I don't have it. I don't mean I don't have the rhythm. I just don't have the wind, the muscular wind. Like I get achy.
Can I
But
just share this one before we go? There was something that I found
yeah,
about the emotions of the body, and how even if we look at someone else's body in a particular position, it elicits emotions in us. And the best position of our body to bring in joy is to put your hands up in the air. So the first time I did it like really slowly, and it
uh-huh.
was like someone had a gun to my head. It just didn't do it at all. But if you throw your hands up like that, you
Yeah,
can't help but be happy. Like,
yeah.
hey, you just can't help but be
True. That's
happy.
true. That's very
So when
true.
I've been dancing,
Never
at
threw it.
home after I do my fascia stretching. I'm like dancing and putting my arms up in the air, and yeah, that's my journey at the moment.
Well, I'm I'm really encouraged and excited because I get up and I do these shows 5, 6 days a week, and it's just every day it's becoming a totally different experience, just like our realities becoming a totally different experience every day. And it's like I appreciate it. Sometimes it's a challenge, but I appreciate it because it requires nothing from me but to be me. And I think that's what's kind of happening here. And a big part of this is discovering what that is, including what is fascia, right? And what part of it is me, and other things. So it's very cool. And I guess that's my way of saying I'm really enjoying the conversations every day. I feel like I'm in a lucid dream most of the time. But yeah, it's good
Thank you
seeing
for
you.
everything you do, Todd.
Todd, massage would be helpful, but you must massage. Dr. Joe, Todd, massage would be helpful, but you must massage more than one part of your body.
I don't know
Yes.
what it means.
You know, I've met angels that are assholes. Most of them are doctors, like Dr. Joe Delaney. It's good seeing you. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for showing up and being on the show today. And
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and
and I,
thank you to
and
everyone who's been with us.
I love seeing you out there doing your own thing. I've said that for years. I love to see people out there doing their own thing. It's don't ever underestimate the power of one broadcast or one soul or whatever. So big props to you, and all blessings to you and yours.
Bye.
Peace out. Peace out, everybody. We're going to take a little break, then we'll come back later.